Hello.
Writing a note.
Okay. So that's fully not the book we're discussing today.
What? Women of Troy? No.
Whoops. Anyway, hi everybody. And welcome to our live show for the Dragon Republic. We are on this book 2 of 3 in the Poppy War trilogy. So we're discussing this today. We are the Fantaseries book club, and we've been trying to kind of stick with our fantasy read-along schedule. So actually, we already did get the book pick for the next series, and we've been trying to hurry up and catch up with the Poppy War series. So we did recently do the Poppy War live show a couple weeks ago, a month ago. That wasn't recent. That was a month ago. But just so you all know, just in case people are gonna leave if they didn't finish the book yet, I think we are going to be doing our Burning God live show near the end of this month. So we'll be back on schedule. And Christine, what are we reading after this?
Oh, glad you asked, Rachel. We're reading Jade City, which is going to be on my channel. We're going to be reading those books, and I just want to say, if you guys are in Fantaseries and you voted for good old Jade City, thank you.
If you are one of the 98 people who voted,
that was more people than voted for the Poppy War.
I think so. Yeah, I think Poppy War maybe got 80-ish.
80 something. Yeah.
And then I think we announced here's the poll, and within 3 or 4 days, 98-ish votes, something like that. So
you guys are like, Jade City? Absolutely. Am I a Nikki fan? Yes. Anyway.
Pull up in the bone, Green Bone Saga. So
yeah.
Anyway, we are going to be talking about the Dragon Republic today. So definitely let us know what your ratings are and your general thoughts in the chat. Should we just generally talk about our feelings and maybe who we are in our channels? Because I forgot to do that part. You want to introduce yourselves and talk about maybe your just general vibe about this book, if you want to give a rating or something.
Are you going first, or am I going?
You go. Sorry, I'm so off my game today. Huh? What do you want?
Yeah, I'm the showman. The greatest showman.
Not the greatest one. Maybe the least great showman at this moment.
Okay, I'll go, everybody. Don't worry. My name's Christine. I'm one half of the Roomies Digest. You guys know Monique doesn't read fantasy, so she's not here. Big surprise. Anyway, I ended up rating this. It's somewhere between a 4 and a 4.5. It's somewhere in between there. I could say 4.25, but who really cares? You know what I'm saying? So somewhere between a 4 and a 4.5. On Goodreads, it's officially a 4. But yeah, I liked this book. I was living for my little romance that I have playing up inside of my head. I was living. But yeah, I think generally why this one was a 4.5 for me is that it was a little bit slower for me for some reason.
I agree.
But still had a good time, still enjoyed the characters, and it was still heartbreaking. So
oh, yeah. Cool.
Thank you and goodbye.
My name is Nicole from Bon Bon Reads, and I rated this book a 4.5. I don't remember what I rated the first one. I rated it. Sorry. I rated it 5 stars.
Yeah.
And anyways, I felt like this book was really good, but it was very intense, and it did get kind of slow and drag at times. I was putting it down, having to put it back up, and I don't know if that was because I just didn't want to read what was happening next, but I did really enjoy the twists, and yeah, I'm really excited to discuss this.
Cool. I'm Rachel from the channel Let Me in the Library, and I read this book pretty much in 2 days or something, and mostly on a really long road trip. So I feel like I had a positive experience while I was listening to the audio / picking up the book. So it ended up being a generally very positive experience for me, but I think I've settled around a 4-star, pretty much for the same reasons as everybody else. There were some moments that were kind of slow. There were times I kind of wanted to put it down, but I was also like, this is a 24-hour audiobook. I'm just going to listen to it while I'm driving. But I feel like there were so many events that happened in here. There were a lot of reflections, again, with Chinese history and mythology that it's really hard not to respect like the parallels that R.F. Kuang gives in this book, and also just be interested and invested in the characters, as far as like the romances, but also like the tragic events after war, and the way that this sort of all culminates near the end of the book. So very exciting to discuss this today, but also to see what happens in The Burning God. I'm really excited to continue the series. Yeah. And I know that some other folks here have their ratings as well. And we had we kind of started the FANTASERIES book club as a way of reading series that people were like really positive about and really negative about. And I feel like that's still really true for this series, because some people gave it like 2 stars and other people gave it 5. So really interested to kind of like discuss all the little nuances with everybody on that. Let's see. So State of Fiction says, hi, I am one of the few that like this 4.5. I guess you're not alone, because everybody on the show gave it a pretty high rating. Love this one, 5 stars for me. Okay, that's great. I like this one more than the first one. Cool. The ending was so good. I gasping out loud. My fiance thought something was wrong.
Me too, honestly. I was yelling at the end of this book, and I was buddy reading it with Jayla, so I was like angry texting, just like, I can't believe this is happening.
Jess said, hi, I'm on page 241. I'm a bad host, but I'm really enjoying it so far. I can't wait to discuss Burning God with y'all at the end of the month. Jess, we miss you, but
Yeah,
we'll
we
see you for Burning God. I really did not like it. LOL. It was a 2-star for me after loving the first one, but I'm here for the discourse. Definitely want to hear like what makes it like more of a 2-star or not for you. Very interested. Hi everybody. Hello pals. I haven't read the series yet, but I just wanted to say hi. Isn't this like the one series Noelle's always like, I will read this. I will read this.
That and Daevabad, I think.
Oh,
I think Daevabad's the other one she hasn't finished, and because I remember her in her series video, she was like, "Oh yeah, Christine's gonna be jumping all over this, but Daevabad."
we need it. Please, Noelle, feed us. Jades.
Jade City's gonna be so good. Ooh.
Did not read. Just here for the vibes and company since I'm in COVID isolation, like it's 2020. LOL.
Oh no.
Thanks for coming to hang out. I hope you're
I didn't know
okay.
you were in COVID isolation. I hope you're doing all right.
Yeah. 100%.
Jade City, yes, it has been chosen. So
Yes.
there you go.
I think we basically like we didn't say it, but we were. Oh no, I think you said it at some point. Like,
No, yeah, I think I was like, "Hey, everybody, it's
like,
set up. Yeah,
yeah.
the channels are open." We're already having like a lot of like general chat about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm excited.
Yeah. JC did end up as the official pick. Yes, yes. So definitely, we already have the, everything for book 1. So if you want to discuss, please do that.
I was like, I know me and Jess are living in our fantasy.
So without further ado, should we get into spoilery territory?
Yeah.
Let's
Alright,
do it.
So this is your final warning for people watching. We are discussing spoilers at this point. So if you have not finished The Dragon Republic, hopefully we will see you at our next show. And feel free to continue to discuss in the Discord and whatnot. Okay, so folks, how do we feel in general? Is this the right banner for this? I don't know.
Introduction.
How do we generally feel about this book coming in from the Poppy War into this? I mean, in my mind, I think the Dragon Republic is very different from the Poppy War. The Poppy War is more school centric in the very beginning, and then it really leans into this war torn country. But it follows these characters that were students up until this moment when they were thrust into war. And I think by the Dragon Republic, people are dealing with that trauma, and they are really facing this horrible experience of war and realizing that it's nothing like school. It is not even remotely anything like they could have imagined before, and suddenly they're at the helm and they kind of have to lead the troops and be the ones in charge of what happens next. So in terms of that development, also goodbye, Jess. Thank you. Bye. So in terms of like those developments with the characters, I see a big difference, and I think with our main character Rin's motivations, that changes as well. But what are our general? I don't know. I'm going to switch to plot. What are here? Here we go. Found it.
I was like, it's all up in the air. There are things that happen in this intro that we got to talk about that happened later. Okay, so anything can be talked about.
I think that the beginning was really hard for me to read because in the first book, I was really rooting for Rin. And by the end of the book, I ended up feeling really frustrated at her. And the first 50 to 100 pages, I think, were really tough for me to read because she was just so full of angst and was very irritable and just rude and not really feeling like sad or remorse for anything.
Right.
And it's because she was dealing with her addiction, but it was just really hard to read and empathize with her.
Yes. Yeah, and I think we touched on that in the first show, is that Rin is sometimes such an annoying main character because she's so selfish and she's so like my way or the highway. And it's a little annoying. And definitely when she starts off this book, she is still smoking opium. She's still addicted to this drug that she was so adamant about Alton not smoking in the last book. So it's so interesting that she has now like kind of not only physically taken his place as like the leader of the site, but also like she has taken his place.
She's really in his shoes because
yes.
she's basically the same thing as him.
Right.
I will say one of the things that I think knocked this down a star for me was that like every 4 pages was like Alton, 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 Alton. Because like the whole book was just like, I'll never be like Alton. You'll never be like Alton. It should have been you, said Alton. And I'm like, I know that you're dealing with a lot of things right now, but I just feel like if I have to read this name one more time, I'm gonna throw up. Like it's just all constant.
Yes.
Like
I think that's one thing that that R.F. Kuang does really, really like obviously. She will literally tell you what's going to be happening later on in the book. So like a perfect example is the first chapter of this book. She is talking about the story with Neja and his brother, right? And so they're in the grotto. This like crazy dragon comes up and eats his brother. And so like when I was reading that chapter, I was like, oh, it makes sense that Neja is now going to be a shaman, or he's going to be like, he's going to have something to do with this dragon, right? And so like later on when we find out that like he's got these powers, it kind of like solidified the fact that the way that she writes the book is like, okay, these are things that you need to be looking out for. So like, for example, again, her like opium addiction, obviously that's something that has to be addressed later on in the book. And I will say that that's something I really love about her writing, is that it like comes in full circle moments. Like you can have these like hints as to what the plot will be about, and then it will come back and like make sense later.
Yeah. What do you think, Jayla?
Oh,
hi.
I was totally paying attention to that statement. Yes. Hi. It's been a time over here.
Are you in the bathroom?
I'm in a bathtub.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're in a bathroom or a bathtub?
Both.
Okay.
There's no discrimination here.
You know.
Okay.
But what were you saying?
Well, welcome to the show. We were
Sorry, I'm late.
We were talking very, very early on in the show. We're just talking about R.F. Kuang's writing and how she will solidify future events by dropping big hints much earlier. So, for example, at the beginning of this book, in the first little like kind of like prologue part, I guess, is where we see Neja and his brother, and how his brother gets like snatched up by a dragon, and then the dragon said something where he was like,
"I have bigger plans for you," or something.
He actually, he just says, "Hello, little one."
Oh, is that what he said? Okay.
Yeah, and then
I was like, he said something crazy. I was like, this dragon's coming for your butt, man.
Yeah. So then later on, when we get, the solidification of the fact that Neja is kind of like some kind of shaman as well, then it's, like you have the hints in front of you, and eventually as the story progresses, you can kind of put it together of like, what would that mean? So by the time you find out, it's less of like a, like, where did this come from plot twist, and more like, well, I had the breadcrumbs leading up to this, so it feels more rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I've learned that I have to pay a lot more attention to the cute little story times that she does, where she brings up like little ancient myths or something, because you realize that it's literally just foreshadowing of what's going to be happening to the actual characters. And I'm like, well, I should have paid more attention to that part. Yes. Darn.
Yeah. I was I was finishing finally my reread of the Poppy War right before I read this. So there were a lot of things that I was annotating there where I was like, wait a minute, this is just like this thing. And that was mostly the reveals in the first book with like the gatekeeper being Zhang. And so how they would show like, oh, the gatekeeper is this person and he has all these crazy animal shadows come out of his back. And I was like, oh, okay. And then later on when you see Zhang show up and he has all these animals come out of his back, you're like, so that's hello. Let's talk about that. And then like 3 chapters later or something, they're like, the gatekeeper is locked up. And I'm like, he's right there.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny to read.
Wait a minute.
I can't wait to reread because, yeah, I feel like there's so much, especially since I'm not an annotating girly. I don't know if everyone else here does that, but
literally all of us with our little tabs.
Oh, okay, yeah, not me.
Well, I'm very new to annotating. Like the Poppy War was pretty much like the first book in a really long time that I've annotated. So
these are honestly, I would say these are the perfect books to annotate because of the fact that she does so much foreshadowing. And like everything she writes is for a reason. You know what I mean? So like it will come up later. So if you're annotating, you can pay attention and say, okay, well, this means this and like this means this and XYZ, you know.
Can you guys give me a quick flash of the amount of tabs you have? Do a quick comparison. Okay. Compared to Nick.
Hey.
Wait, Rachel, I don't even see. Oh.
Nothing.
She annotated the Poppy War.
Oh, but not the Dragon Republic. Okay.
So this one was mostly audio on a road trip, so I was not really like getting my book out and like putting tabs in.
Gotcha.
Trying not to fall down.
Too dangerous. Yeah, please.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I had to make it to the show. But yeah, I mean, right now we're just doing like very general thoughts about the book. So any other additional thoughts?
Your rating and like your overall vibe of the book.
Yeah, I gave it a 4.5 only because, like, as I mentioned to Christine once, it just felt like towards the end, like, granted, I was trying to just finish the book because I didn't want to have to travel with it, but towards the end, it just felt like it kept going and like the ending was extended past what we needed, and also was just a lot more painful and unnecessarily painful than we needed. But I still think like she knows how to write a book, and she has I actually was talking to an editor about this who had gotten a submission of this and was like, she doesn't know how to finish a book. She doesn't have plans for it. And I really disagree with him because she clearly knows, like, even from, obviously this has been through edits, but from page 1, she has an idea of where she's going. And it, as you've said, like, hints at it throughout the entire thing. So I still think it was really strong. I just think I like the Poppy War more than this one because of like the academia setting and the competition.
Same.
And, but I guess you could call it hate to love or whatever was a lot more intense in that one. Although now it's back to hate and I'm just broken.
Okay, well, at the very beginning, I don't have a romance button thing at the bottom of this, but like
heart eyes, everybody, heart eyes. I was living. I've ascended. Okay.
Like the thing is, like Rin is like completely like smoked out of her mind, where she's just like, I killed all these people, and then she's like, I would do anything for you.
For you.
I don't care. Like, I don't care. It's like, okay.
It's like really crazy.
Did you just immediately like? Did no one ever ship Alton and Rin? Was that never a thing for anyone else?
The first read through, I liked him because she liked him. But then when he slapped her in the face, I said, no, sir, you're a big red flag.
That did.
And that's when I realized like he never really loved her as a person. He loved her as like a weapon.
Yeah.
Fair.
So, whereas Neja, my baby, my sweet thing.
I think I was always very like hate to love-ish. So having like Neja be the enemy, where like she would just like kick him in the balls.
I loved it.
Be like, yeah, I only know one kick. Pow! Like it's just great one-liners that come out of situations like that. And then the whole like when they meet each other and then they're fighting back to back.
Yeah,
that was iconic.
Like it's just the fact they were like, we knew each other so well because we hated each other in a different world. If we had been friends, maybe that like attention to detail, we could have been friends. We would have been whatever. But like, they knew each other so well, so they were able to like defend each other's blind spots, and it was almost like whatever one person was so bad at, the other person could compensate for it. So I was like, oh, they really fit together, which is why the ending hurts more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, I was spoiled for that for like a long time ago. Like when this book came out, everybody had fan art of it all over Twitter. And so I was like, oh, okay. And everyone was always like, oh, spoilers for book 2 of the Poppy War. And I was like, well, now I know what it's from. So, okay, like it's a picture on Twitter. I'm not going to not see it.
It completely caught me off guard. I mean, it kind of didn't because I didn't trust him. Because I knew that something like he tried to warn her. He's like, your enemies aren't just like, not just ones you think they are. He tried, but he didn't try hard enough.
But the other thing is, I think a lot, like, I find Neja's character more interesting in this book. Like, the first one, I really just liked him as a character being...
The whole time?
Well, no, I mean, like, at the beginning, I was like, he's insufferable and he's annoying. But by the time they're, like, back to back, I'm like, all right, great, okay. Fantastic. But, like, at some point in this book, when he's talking about his father's republic, he's like, well, no, it's fair because the people get to vote. Because either they vote for us to take over or we kill them. And it's like,
yeah.
You think that's fair, Neja? Yeah, you think your dad's fair?
Yeah. He's definitely naive in this book, and it showed so much.
A lot of the things he defends are not things that most people would morally agree with, and it's not even necessarily one of those things where you're like, the brutality of battle makes me think differently than others, but it just seems like he's just going along with something that's obviously not good.
Well, and he's never really had to think about anything because he's always been in a higher standing, like in life, like his position, how he looks, you know, him going to synagogue and like having all this favor. And like that really came through in the conversation he had with Rin, because he was like, why did you hate me in school? And she was like, you idiot, you never even had to think about what would happen if I didn't succeed. All you thought about was yourself. And I'm like, LOL that Rin is saying this because Rin is also selfish, but she's not wrong. Like he's always came from this like center of entitlement and like being the whitest boy there and like having all this money and connections and yada yada yada. And so it was almost like the perfect summation of how he had been acting the entire book, because he had this almost like naive optimism about like the Republic and his father and like all these things that a normal person who actually has to work for their standing and like their job and things like that, they would be like, okay, but how do you not see that there are all these poor people like starving in the city walls, you know, like that's not a republic, that's like low-key we're killing them.
Like there's an entire refugee crisis over here and they're just like, it's not part of the, like, you know, we're taking them in. It's like, well, do you think this is okay?
Yes, exactly.
So, and I mean, like, I appreciate actually that Rin is not like your typical, I mean, like, I always say like typical YA protagonist, even though this is not YA, but you know what I mean, where there's like a naive person who's just like, but it's just not right because I know what's good and this is not good. But like, she's actually like a more three-dimensional character because she isn't just like good for the sake of good or anything, but she has a lot of like moral flaws, and she really does exist in a very selfish type of way out of survivalist instinct, but she still has kind of like connections to Kasegi and stuff with like her auntie Fang. So it's kind of interesting to see her like behave in ways where like she'll still like kill a guard to like deal with the situation, but she's still like also refugee crisis is like pretty bad. So like
yeah, the interesting thing about her is that she, like, unlike Neja, she does take in other factors. She just doesn't care a lot of the time. So that's where it becomes like, dang girl, you're like, I don't think she's a bad person, but definitely morally gray, definitely a lot of the time ignoring that there are other people who will get hurt from this. So that's what makes her so interesting to me, because like she kind of just, there's no line. I don't know. Like she's not balancing the line. She's just all over the line for me. I don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes from her survivalist instinct. Like that's just all that she's known. So like for her decisions is like, that's what it is. You know what I mean?
I also don't even think she really wants to be alive. I don't know. It's complicated to me.
I don't think she knows what she is without war, and she said that in the book.
Yeah.
When they're all talking about where they would be.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
And she's not wrong. Like, what is she going to do? She can't go have a family, like a traditional family, right? Because, you know, she took out her uterus in book 1. So it's like, okay, what does she do, like, with all this power that she always has, you know? So she's not wrong, but I think it just goes to show that she still has a lot of growing, and I'd love to see in Burning God, like, her kind of find herself, you know, and like, and I don't know if that means she's going to end up like offing herself in the end or like what, but
I do
I'm
see it
excited
going
to
that
see where it
way.
goes. Huh?
I do see it going that way, but I feel like more people would talk about how devastating the last book is.
I really don't think she's going to do that, though.
We'll
Yeah, that's
see.
what I'm
We'll
saying.
see.
I mean, I would think no because of. Do you remember last live show we talked about at the end?
What?
Given Rin is supposed to be a like, what if Chairman Mao was a young teenage girl?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like that's still happening in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is like reflective of the Chinese Civil War. So this is still like talking about Mao's like rise to power in terms of the like the Republic, I forget what, like the Dragon Republic is supposed to be like the Republic of China, and then there's Mao's like I forget what it's called, but it's basically
Revolution?
It's like the party system for him, but like
Wasn't
it's
it?
basically those party systems and kind of like the uh the interactions between the two as people are resisting the old power as it has fallen, and now it's between like the Republic, which is really, you know, the Dragon Republic, and then the I had this written down somewhere and I don't know where it is, but like Mao's thing, which I think is what's developing in book 3, because by the end of it, where she's like, I will rule, you know,
Right.
like I think this is just sort of like taking the path between this trilogy to hype up is such a bad word for what I'm trying to say. Show the progression of a war orphan that comes from like being dirt poor and have absolutely nothing to rise to a place of political standing and then make choices that are just terrible and make a lot of like moral decisions that hurt people and lead to you know, genocides and war, and put that person in power, and now this person is like on top of everything and the leading power in this entire country. So I think that's kind of just where Burning God will put us. I don't know where it will leave us, but I think that's pretty much going to be like the crux of this thing. And if it took like this long to get Rin to a point where she's like, I'm going to rule and people are going to follow me, the Burning God is probably going to be about the same thing. And I don't think she's going to kill herself in the end. I think she's just going to be in charge until somebody takes her down.
Oh, I didn't mean her killing herself. I meant she was going to die in general.
Yeah,
but
she dies.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
But I do realize that's how it sounded like I said that, yes.
Okay.
But also, to your point, it sounds like you just described Rin as Katniss Everdeen plus President Kuang to an extent, which is very interesting as an arc. Okay. So I agree.
I know that's where your mind goes first, so
it literally is. Well, no, because when we are in spoilers, right? Yeah. So when what's the Southern Warlords like tried to like get her to join them, it's a very much a District 13 be our Mockingjay please moment. So I'm seeing the parallels for sure.
It's not definitely interesting that at the beginning of this book, she felt relieved when she was demoted and she was no longer in charge of the psych. And she was like, okay, great. I don't have to be in charge of anybody. F it. You know what I mean? And I get it. I mean, like, she was having trouble with her powers and she felt helpless. So she was like, what else can I be but a soldier? Blah, blah, blah. But then by the end of this book, she's like, yes, I will be the Burning God. Yes. I will take over and rule the entire southern lands, which was such a flex, by the way that they came through and they were like, oh yeah, we've got literally untrained soldiers, but we have the power behind like the whole entire South because we have so many people. So it doesn't even matter if they suck. We'll just throw them and keep throwing them and throwing them and throwing them.
Mindset, but yeah.
And it's just like so interesting that she's now gonna be like the head of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because she didn't even know her impact. like at all. You know, she's just over here living her life, and then Kasegi comes in and goes, "Everybody knows who you are. You're famous." So
It must always It must always come back to the Hunger Games. I'm sorry.
yes, tabbed up.
Sorry, I just realized I wasn't doing any comments. So
Yeah, it's fine.
really,
I
anything
agree
was
with
how
that.
the wartime stuff uninteresting, and presumably the next one long tend to be uninterested. Yeah, I mean, like I gave the Poppy War to my mom, and I was like, "This is really good. You should read it," and she really enjoyed it. And then I was like, "Wow, you should read the Dragon Republic." And then when I finished it, I was like, "Maybe you shouldn't read the Dragon Republic," because I just know that like she's not as interested in political wartime type of stuff. So it really definitely depends on the person, and usually like people will just gravitate towards something like this or not, but sometimes even the investment in the characters will not necessarily do it for you.
Yeah.
Right. He hated her in the beginning because she embarrassed him, and she was literally seen as a nothing. That's why he hated her.
I think he had like some internal prejudices just because she was like the darkest person there. And she was a president, and everybody automatically was like, "Ugh, you don't belong here."
Right.
And he just was like, "Oh yeah, probably." And then she also embarrassed him.
His butt. It's because she was dark, poor, literally a woman, like all the things. Perfect storm for him to bully.
Also, she was like one of like maybe 3 girls in the program in her year.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
yeah, and we see all 3 of those women in this book. Anyway.
He started to hate her because she was better than him. Yes, but that's definitely not how it started.
Right.
Yeah, because he kind of had like a superiority complex too. There is no line for Rin. That is very true.
Yeah, there is no line.
Find herself at the end of this book. Yes, although that's not necessarily a good thing for everybody else.
Right.
I have a hard time believing that Rin is going to survive the series. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, honestly, it would be crazy if she finds herself at the end of Burning God and then gets killed or like whatever, fades into the Pantheon.
Do you think Neja's gonna kill her though?
Neja?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
This is great that we brought this up because let's just go ahead and get into it. Neja stabs her in the back, right? And like literally stabs her in the back. And when he does this, I was like going through it because I was like, okay, why is he doing this? You know what I mean? And the only thing I can think of is his dad was like, you either kill her or she goes with, the Hesperians, right? The white dudes. And Neja's like, okay, if I kill her, she's dead for real. Like dead, gone. I'll never see her again. If she goes with the white guys, I might be able to go and get her or something. And she might hate me, but she'd still be alive. And so that's my theory. I'm like, he stabbed her because he was like, there's no other way I can get her to go or like to capture her. And if I don't capture her, they will kill her. So like, I've got to be the one to do it.
I thought you were just trying to say he was really bad at aiming for vital places on the body.
No,
like, he can either kill her,
like, incapacitate her basically, and then come back later. And that's the whole reason why he's on that dock watching them. Because like in his stupid little brain, he's like, I just want her to know that I didn't really want to kill her. And I'm like, Neja, do you know Rin? He's gonna kill you.
But that's not really an answer. So you don't think that he'll kill her in book 3 then is kind of
no, I don't think he'll kill her. Okay. I think she'll kill him before
I think she'll kill him. I think
maybe they'll go
so hard that they'll kill each other.
I mean, that might be it too, but like Rin doesn't even realize her own feelings. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's true.
So for me, like her anger and like whatever, maybe it's because she's a Spirally, maybe it's just because it's Rin, but like her anger is crazy. And it comes out in crazy ways. So I would not be surprised if she kills him accidentally and then regrets it for the rest of her life.
Maybe, yeah.
That feels very Rin.
Yeah.
It's just so weird that I definitely think they will be the final showdown since there's so much emphasis on their relationship plus the whole fire versus water thing.
Yes.
But it's just weird that how it went from her showdown with the Empress was just like, I'm just going to let her go. When like you thought that was going to be the main villain. Like obviously it's 3 books, so she can't just catch her and then it be done. But I don't know. It's just weird how that took such a turn to focus solely on this is like my new arch nemesis. It's no longer the Empress. who is just out there now doing whatever she's doing.
And honestly, I don't even know if the main like end battle will be Nezha, because like what we learned in this book is that the Hesperians have always been
That's true. They are the
bad guys, and we knew that. Like
Yeah.
we knew that, you know, like we talked about it when she was talking about the Poppy War, how the Hesperians in the first Poppy War, they were all up in it. They were helping the Muganese or Muganese, whatever. And then in the second one, they couldn't be bothered, you know, and that's because they wanted to basically cull like this entire nation, right? They wanted them to destroy each other, which happened, right? But then, you know, we realized the whole reasoning behind the Empress inviting the enemy into their nation, right? Because she's trying to get rid of the white men and like colonization and like all this like stupid stuff.
Yeah, can we talk about that really quick?
Yeah.
I think that revelation was just really hit hard for me.
Mhm.
And I think one of the reasons why I really liked this book is because you really realize that like there isn't just a good or bad guy. Everyone has different motivations and perspectives. And like from the Empress's story to the Chagan and like the tribe or the clan.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about when they were betrayed by the Psyche?
Yeah.
Yes.
That was just so overwhelming, but you just don't know who to root for because
they were betrayed by the Psyche, or you mean they were betrayed by like the original trio?
The original trio.
The trifecta.
Yeah.
Yes, the trifecta. Yes.
I was trying to look. I'm trying to remember the name that because like the whole time we've been calling them hinterlands, like the hinterlanders, but that's obviously not.
Curiatids?
Maybe. I think that's right.
I'm not saying, I feel like I'm missing some letters, but.
Yes, but it's something.
That sounds
I think
right.
It's so interesting that like we've called them that, you know, from the start because that's all we get. But then
I love that. I love that she kept saying.
She starts saying that's not what they're called, or like they don't want to be called that, or like whatever. I'm trying to find the name, but like who knows what it is.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I just love that whole part, like kind of finding like the backstory behind the Northerners and kind of like what their motivations are and how they truly do know like more about the gods and like the whole like spirit realm and everything, and how they're just like, you guys are so dumb. You don't even learn how to use your powers. You just call the gods and then you blow stuff up. And this is what happens. So we're going to exterminate you because you don't even learn anything before you start. Okay. And I just love that because they know everything. Like they knew how to cure Ren's block. Like they knew how to like pair the two people together. And I like loved that whole thing. I wish we knew more about the tribes and like we knew more about the culture, which I'm sure they will come through in the next book because obviously Becker is crazy, you know, killing his mom.
You keep doing the like, you crazy girl.
You crazy girl. I can't help it, guys. My TikTok references are out of this world. But yeah, I love that whole thing, and I'm so excited to kind of see that because obviously the relationship between Kara and her brother Chagan, yes, Chagan. I don't know. Anyway, that was so important because you learn the whole story about how you can break the bond, and then obviously you know the stuff goes down.
But then also the thing with the trifecta with being like triple bonded.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait. I said, Nesha, please join the right side. Anyway, I was literally texting Jayla. I was like, if they don't come through as the new trio, I'm done with this series.
I mean, okay, because I've been saying that to myself. I've been saying it to myself since I was rereading the first book, and I was like, "Oh, the trifecta," and they do da 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 da, and I was like, "Oh, so this is basically literally like." Sorry, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just I've been saying this to myself.
I've been saying this to myself for the longest time. Between like Rin, Nezha, and Kate, I was just like, "They're the new trifecta, though. Like, there's literally no other
best friends that anybody has ever had." Okay. Nesha just has to figure out that like you can't survive under the Hesperians.
Speaking of,
I was going to say this, and I don't want it. No,
I was thinking about this too, and I hope it's not true, but I don't know.
But that's honestly what I thought by the end of book 2, Kate was going to be on a different side than Rin.
Well, that's the thing, because like at the end of book 1, he's very upset with her, where he's
Yeah.
like, "How could you have done?" Well, because she just committed genocide, so good reason to be upset.
And he still is. He
and he's
still
like,
is in
"How
book
dare you
2.
do this?" And then like for most of the book, he's still like, or at least like a good third or half of the book, he's
I
like,
feel like he got over it pretty quickly, but maybe that's just because, you know,
He-
he's in enemy territory and he's just got to do what he's.
I
Yeah.
think he kind
Yeah.
of slowly
Once-
warms up again, but once they're with the Ketriad, I think
Betrayed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ketriads,
There you go. That's the name.
then I think that's kind of when he's like, okay, let's do this again. And then by the time they're like, let's do the bonding thing, and he's like, they're like, are you close? And he's like, yeah, we're like best friends. I'm like,
Yes.
okay.
Because
Yeah,
he's always
I love
loved her. It's just like it took his father's death and like
Yeah.
realizing he had nowhere to go, and then they had to go up the freaking river. The boat got blown up. They're out here around a fire. The Hesperians are over there with their
like,
guns.
from the
Like,
first
you know.
book, whenever we saw, like, this was the thing that Jess was saying. Remember at the end of the last show where she was like, what if Kate like betrays her because he was the one who was always like, deception in warfare is the best strategy. So like anything you do, you have to know the other side very well, and then you have to prepare yourself to trick them as best as you possibly can, play the long game,
I would
get your way.
be in so much pain if this was a long con for him. But I do think we definitely saw a darker side to him with killing. What's her name?
That part was so good.
I loved that, but I was also like, oh
killed
no,
her.
you're not as damaged as you're supposed to be over this, which means that you had it in you all along, and this could probably come back in a way that I don't like later for Ren specifically. But
Wait, killing who? Killing who?
the girl in
Yeah.
the poison distributing thing, I forgot her name.
Oh, from their school.
From their
Yeah.
school, the other
Is it
girl.
Nyang or Neon?
Neon?
Young, yeah.
That whole part, y'all, that was really great.
Because he was like negotiating with her, but he was
Yeah.
basically like,
He was
yeah, I'm just gonna
done
kill
with
her.
it. He's like, okay, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
Bye.
He really didn't. He really said, "You're dead. See you later." Yeah, that whole he literally says, "Fuck this." Yeah, it's page 259. Sorry, I was like
It's
looking
very-
for that part because I was
It
like,
was very
riveted.
hot. Yeah.
Yeah,
it
he
was
says,
very
"F this." In one fluid moment, he lifted his crossbow, aimed, and shot the arrow straight into her left breast, and then she died. Niang.
Not only did he shoot her, she died of the poison. Like she was
Yeah.
so bad through all that.
Yeah, he
so.
didn't even do a mercy
He didn't
kill. He
even-
was like,
right,
"Oh, wow."
exactly.
But yeah, I think that it goes back to what we're saying about RF. Like, she will show you the truth, and it's up to
Exactly.
you to like believe it. And I think what Rachel was saying
I
is,
don't want to.
I mean, I think you're exactly right. I think Kate is the smartest person in this whole entire series, and he knows that he needs Ren to defeat the Hesperians and to like kind of like get out of this republic. And I think in the end, once it's all done, he's gonna be like, okay,
Now I got what I wanted.
right, we've got to kill the thing that could potentially come back and be crazy. Yeah, later on. And I could see him doing
I don't know if I agree with you guys, just because, and we'll see. Like
Good.
by the
I
end
wanted-
of,
Yeah, I love that. Tell
but
me.
I
why.
disagree because I think specifically during the bonding experience where they were getting linked, they really saw into each other's souls, and they almost felt this like unspeakable bond between them. And I think once you really get inside someone's head like that and you understand and relate to certain aspects of themselves that you never knew before, like I think it changes any motives that you might have had before. And I think that their friendship completely changed.
Well, my question with that is then we know that he now feels the hunger and Ren's just kind of got all the power, but he's the one who's got the mental link with the god. And so he feels that hunger for like chaos and to like have everything. So maybe that could end up playing into book 3
That's a
where
good
he
point.
loses control. And like maybe
Yeah.
his motives change, but for the worse.
I mean,
Yeah,
what
that's a good point.
it could be a combination of both of these theories as far as like, I mean, for the majority of this book, I went in being like, okay, if Kate's the bad guy, I have to prepare myself for it. It'll be fine. And he like openly is angry at her until he kind of comes to a point of like sort of forgiveness of let's just be on the same side. And I think by the time they get to the bonding ceremony, I'm like, okay, never mind. He's not going to do this. And I kind of trust him again, at least as far as Rin's side of the story. And I mean, agree. I think like if you see inside of each other's hearts, if he was hiding something, no matter how smart he is, I don't know that he'd be able to hide anything like that. And also they're bonded, so if she dies, he dies too. I'm not saying he's so noble he wouldn't make that sacrifice, but I also just don't see that happening that way. But it could possibly just be like that he gets driven to a point of madness in the third book where he's like, I cannot do this with this chaotic energy where you get to control this thing and I am the conduit.
Right.
And if it were not for this bond, then it wouldn't happen.
Right.
So that
I can see him unbonding and maybe even killing himself to like take away, because if he's gone, Ren can't call the god. You know?
Oh my god, yeah.
So I could see him doing that because he's like so smart, and like what is he, you know, like not like he has nothing to live for, because obviously no one should kill themselves, right? But like in his brain, he's like, my father is dead. Like
he's very much about the greater good.
Yeah, and so he's just kind of like, what else am I gonna live for? You know, once the deed is done. So I can see him cutting himself off.
Maybe, but also I think Kate is pretty like he's very well bonded with Rin in terms of wanting to rule by her side with this. So I wonder if he'll kind of also go down this path of no return, and kind of just embrace this sort of lifestyle as well, knowing like we can make people's lives better. And also like I think that's such an interesting conversation that most people would never really agree with this in real life, but to see these characters go like, we can't give these people a choice. We just have to tell them what to do. We can't, it's not a democracy. We have to do this. Especially when their form of democracy that they see is, hey, vote with a pebble on if we should kill you or not. What do you think? Where it's like, well, no. And also your version of the democracy still isn't working. So let's do this. I had the ideas. Here's what we're going to do instead. I think that's such a like fascinating like turn of events in that way that like, you know, if you know a little bit about, I don't know a lot about it, but if you know a little bit about like the Civil War, then it kind of makes sense that it's turning out this way, because it's going to be that, you know, battle between like the nationalists and communists basically. But seeing that turn from her at the beginning being like, I don't want power, just tell me what to do. I don't want to be in charge of anything. And by the end being like, I'm going to rule. I'm going to rule. Everyone's going to follow me. It's such a like interesting path that it takes, but it doesn't not make sense. Like it works for her character. Also, I personally am very interested to see how Vanka will enter the main group in the next book. I really like her return.
Yeah, she's in the group. Okay, she's a homie now. She said, F my dad, I'm going to go with you guys.
Yeah, and have they accepted her back?
Who?
Vinka's father, like, remember her father was like, I don't want anything to do with you because you let this thing happen to you. But remember how they were like, you can still go back to your dad. Like, you don't have to come with us. I was confused.
Yeah, I don't think she really would have had.
Like, she said something like, he disowned me for a week.
Yeah,
I missed that.
But also, I don't think she would have, like she said, she wouldn't have the same life. You know what I mean? Yeah. So she was like, I'd rather just like have my own destiny. And honestly, Vinka's character, I kind of love her. I know that some horrible stuff has happened to her and it was awful in the first book. Like I really hated that whole part and I honestly hate revisiting it. But I kind of love her character now, you know, because she, in the beginning, she was just so full of herself and like boo-boo. And now that like this like horrible thing has kind of happened, she's learning how to like live with a disability, and learning how to just kind of like be her own person. And it's really nice to see.
At the beginning, she was always known as like this quiet, like cold beauty. But she was still very like powerful, and people were like, okay, it's really difficult to fight her. She's always on top. And that was partially how Rin was able to beat her in those trials, because she was like, oh, she's never gotten a hit. If I throw her off because I hit her, she's not used to that, so then I can beat her. And everything was always about like, you are my enemy. After Golanice, obviously the tables had really turned, and she was the only survivor who we got to hear from that had been through the worst possible trauma. Kate and his compatriots had been through it, but had to like hide among dead bodies, which was also really bad. But I think Vanka had like seen everything like day by day by day, and it was the worst possible trauma. And her thing was like, kill everybody, like get revenge for me. And by this point in the second book, she is like, you can tell like she's been through trauma because she has like that really brusque personality where she'll just like say things head on, where she's like, what, you think like my arms are broken so I can't do anything? Well, now I have this thing and I can still pull a crossbow, and like, yeah, I don't have like movement of my like fingers, who cares, I can do this, I can do that, you're not gonna make me not fight. And she'll like just very abruptly say like, this happened to me, I don't care, I'm gonna do this now. Like, don't make that be my personality. My personality is not this thing that was done to me. I'm still useful in battle and combat. Like, bring me along. And I think that that's really indicative of her place in this group, where she's kind of like, I'm gonna be a part of this whether you want me to or not, because I'm useful. So here I am. Like, use me if you need to. Like, I'm here.
Yes.
So
yeah, I'm loving it. I even like, the saddest part with her in this book is, of course, like, maybe not like the saddest part, but a sad part, when she takes the baby from the river, and the baby's, she's like, oh yeah, that baby's dead. Yeah, we should just throw him back, whatever. And then Rin hears the baby whimper, and she's like, Vinka, this is a human life. Like, what's wrong with you? And Vinka is so disgusted, because obviously of what she has like been through, that she's like, I don't really care about anything or anyone. You know what I mean? And I think by the end, like obviously past that part when she's sailing away with Rin and Kate, it's kind of a hopeful moment, because she's like, I finally have like something where I can start healing, like for real, you know, and I can focus on something other than like the past and like being in that moment. And similarly, excuse me, Kate also has the same kind of like PTSD almost from Golanese, because he's replaying the same like dead bodies over and over and over again. And he says that in the book. He's like, I can't get through this part. Like, I can't get past the past. And so I need to focus on like the books. I need to focus on the plans. I need to have some kind of like control in my life. And so I think him and Vinka, like the fact that they're together here, they both went through these horrible things in Golanese. I think they can help each other heal in this way.
Yeah.
And obviously, you know, they're not going to be perfect, but I'm liking that dynamic.
Can to help each other heal, but at the same time, they're never really going to heal in a way that we would consider healthy, because they're both still like people who have come out of war. They don't have healthy coping tactics. They went to schools which prepare them for this school, which was literally like, be the best or leave and you're terrible and a failure. So like, they don't know how to deal with like having failed at anything, or experiencing war at all, where they were like, this is nothing like what I was prepared for. I have no way of coping whatsoever. And like the fact Kate was like, I was doing great, I was doing the whole town's taxes, they're really hard to do, and you took me away from doing this thing, kind of shows that like he's in a position of like, I'm not going to face this thing that's happening to me, I will distract myself with whatever possible. And Vanka is more so in a position of like, I'm just not going to think about it, and I'm going to do this instead. They both went through this thing, so they have that like bond together, but I just don't think it means they're ever going to be like, hey, I've gotten through this and now I know how to treat people with perfect compassion. I think they'll just be like, now I can seek power so that this doesn't happen again. And it may end up that they're at the head of this, you know, organization with Rin, doing things that maybe are not good, because they're just like, well, we can't let another Golanese happen, therefore let's kill all the bad guys. Let's kill everybody. So it sort of leads us in that direction. But that means that Rin is surrounded by these people who are not necessarily going to advise her morally. Yeah, they're not going to check her. They're just going to be like, yeah, sounds good. Yeah. Smart. Like,
yeah. That's why I think this next book is going to be so interesting. I'm like, there's so many pieces, like the Hesperians, the Northerners, freaking Empress, who is still like where is she? I'm still reeling on that first scene in the Poppy War where she's on the boat with the shade guy, I forget his name, where she's on the boat with him, and the goddess like speaking through her, and she's like, oh, you don't even know like what you are to this, you know what I mean? I have not forgotten that, like, and I want to know what that meant, like what does that mean? And I know it's going to come through in Burning God. So
I just want to say one more thing about Venka before we move on to other stuff, though, because like someone brought up Neja again, which is great segue. Was Neja the one who was like calling her sister and like didn't want her to go with them? It was Neja, not
Yes.
Kate, right?
Yeah,
So
it's
that's why I
Neja.
feel like I want to know how that's going to affect her going, because she's going to be against Neja now, and they grew up together. They're super close, allegedly, even though they are obviously disagreeing in book 2. But I'm just like, can she?
Well, because Kate, Neja, and Venka all grew up together, and
Mm-hmm.
then in Sinigard, then Neja and Venka still hung out, but Kate was too smart, so that he kind of got like shunned from the group.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because he's younger than them too. He's like a year younger than them.
Yeah, I think so. So like for the majority of their adolescence, they all grew up together and had this bond. And even like through those like tougher years at Sinigard, Venka and Neja were always together. But I think Neja is still so fixated on like his father's needs and what he wants from him, that what's his name? It starts with a V.
Viceroy?
Viceroy. Yeah, Viceroy. I mean, like Rin has this adoration of Viceroy as well, but I think it still stems from her trauma
More
having
than
to
adoration.
Alton. Yeah. So I mean, feeling like, oh, I need someone to tell me what to do, because then it's not my decision that fucks everything up, but it's that person I was just following orders, and that way I can't be blamed because I can't deal with having that kind of responsibility. So I mean, she loves Viceroy for what he gives her, but also that he isn't just like, let me take care of you, but he's like, tough, get better.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
get good. Or
get good at this.
Like literally.
Stop being bad.
But the point at which he's like, oh my god, I'm expendable. Like, oh my god, he doesn't need me anymore, is where she has that turning point. But Neja, I think it will be much harder for him to make that turn, to really think for himself and realize that maybe he doesn't want to agree with his father. Or it could be, because we don't know, the next book might just be he's just like 100% the Dragon Republic, I'm just going to fight you. Like, I don't know how it's going to turn out.
Yeah. We'll see.
Do you
I think.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to comment on Rin's relationship with Viceroy. So if you have something on this,
keep on it. Go for it.
Oh, okay. I have like a love-hate relationship with their relationship, because like I love that he gave her tough love and like basically got her over opium. Like that, I was like, yes, thank you. She needs a kick in the ass, because this whole wallowing in self-pity, like I actually have no experience with withdrawal, so like I can't empathize, unfortunately, but like I hated it. I didn't like it. So I liked it that he came through and was like, I've dealt with someone like you before, Alton, and I've cracked the code. Like, all you have to do is just like get off of it, like stop it. You know what I mean? So I liked that part. But then obviously, like later on, when he's like, I'm going to give you this experience, like, I don't care. You know, like, I'm going to give it to you because I want to rule and you're expendable. Like, that is the part that I really like did not like. And for a minute, I thought it was going to be a sugar daddy situation, but I'm glad that it wasn't.
Thank God. I was going to say also the fact that he knew about Neja the whole time and was basically like, oh, the shamans, not my son.
Ooh, boy, when they were taking her away in that scene and she was like, what about your son? I was like, yes, throw him under the bus, baby.
That's what I was about to bring up. That's what I was about to bring up, because I was going to say, obviously, he cares about his son enough to lie about it in that moment, but he also really, really wants the experience on his side, even though he's clearly ignoring how they do not care about the Nakara at all, and they will use him to their own end. But
he just wants power, and that goes hand in hand with the fact that his wife like has basically grown up as a Hesperian, even though she's not. So it's just like Viceroy's got all this poison in his brain about what the future can be. And I'm like, sir.
But that's why I'm wondering, do you think it goes so deep that he will eventually consider his own son expendable?
No, because there's no other heir.
But
he doesn't have any other heirs.
Also kind of like
his only
I mean, it's his only son. He's got a daughter. But
I know, I just mean like if it's just so sad.
Wait. Oh, I'm sorry, Rachel. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, like, if he thinks, like, they're going to take my son either way, whether I give him up or they take him, he might just be like, there you go.
Yeah.
Because, like, what else is he going to do? He's either going to not rule or he's going to rule.
And I think that would be the thing for Neja that finally, like, clicks. Like I need to go find Rin and be on her side, because even my dad just sold me off. But go ahead.
I would like to see that, but I don't know.
Can we just talk about how, like, it's implied towards the end that he's the reason why like Neza went down there when no one else was there,
Oh, yeah,
and then
he was-
encountered the
Tea.
dragon.
He
It was
literally
all
was like,
calculated.
he literally was like, go down there with your brother. Go. You're
I think
he literally was like, these are my two most expendable sons, so I'm gonna go send them down there. That's literally what he said.
and I believe it. I'm like, yeah, he probably honestly thought the baby was going to be the one that was the dragon thing. He probably thought they were going to take Neja.
Yeah.
Because that's what the dragon Loki was saying. He was like, I'm going to take your face. And you know what I mean? So, like, he probably thought that was going to happen, but then it obviously got switched because Minza,
Misha.
the younger brother, he obviously was the one who got eaten. And that's why the mom hated everything, right? Because she was like, my baby boy. You know what I mean? But that whole thing is just so interesting. It's like, did you put the gold bracelets on your son so that he would attract the dragon? Like, did you plan all this out, or like, was it all coincidence? I don't know. But I do think he knew about shamans. He wanted a shaman. I think he did do that on purpose.
I
And
mean,
that's why I don't think in the end he'll give up his son. Like, I don't think if the Hesperians come for him, I think Viceroy really wants to kill, like, have complete control. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, I thought that he did pick Mingja on purpose to be the sacrifice by loading him down with the gold because dragons like gold.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
That he
But
did
I mean,
that part on
that
purpose.
was his mom doing that, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but maybe, you know what I mean? Like, maybe the mom was just like, oh, great idea. You know, like the dad was like, oh, I got him some gold bracelets. And the mom's like, yes, perfect. My baby. You know, so I don't know.
Yeah.
That whole thing, it's like so tragic. But like,
really
how
messed up.
fine does Nesha look with that dragon tattoo? You know what I'm saying? Hello.
You need to stop. It causes him pain.
Wait, you're saying his dad was like, my son would look so fine with a dragon tattoo. I'm going to send him down there right now. Boy, get your brother. As many bracelets as you can find.
Absolutely not. I hope that's not what Visor did. Because then I didn't know his game. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my god. The worst.
No. But yeah, I do think it's interesting that we find out Neja's in chronic pain.
Yeah.
Love that. I was like, yes, chronic pain.
You love that?
Let's go. Well, because it like explains a lot of why he's honestly a piece of crap all the time. Like, he's in a bad mood. You know what I mean? And they had this line in there. You know, if I was like a good annotator, I'd be like, Paige, whatever. But like, they had a line in there where Rin was like, okay, it makes sense. Like, if you're living in chronic pain, obviously you're not going to be the nicest person.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's not true for everyone, but like, you know, it explains a lot
Well,
of
she was
why
saying that you're in
ill.
pain. Like, so if most people are not experiencing pain, you're going to react differently. Because
Right.
it's just more, yeah, it hurts more for you.
Yeah.
Just to do the same things everyone else does.
I love that, because I was like, that's so enlightening to just like people who live with chronic pain. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be in a fantasy book. Like, it's literally just like enlightenment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like, I like that you kind of like cut him extra slack, and they both, I mean, like, they were on very different scales, but I think they both sort of realized different things about each other through that conversation of like, oh, I didn't realize you were going through that. Okay, and I also didn't realize you were deeply poor and had nothing to go back to. Where it was like, yeah, a little different, but yes, you're so right.
I love that after that conversation, they go off to war or whatever, and like the bombs are going off across the street, and she's over there with Baji, and she's shaking, and Baji's like, you cold, girl? And she's like, no, Neja's over there. And he's like, girl, you sprung. I was like, Baji is literally the father Rin never had, and Suni is literally the mother that Rin never had. Oh, but speaking of mothers, what did you guys think of the Katrids recognizing Rin? Saying what was the leader's name? The Sona whatever? Sona?
I have it opened on one of these pages.
The Sona Setrid or something? Something like that. But she was like, oh, you look just like XYZ, the mom's name.
The Sorkin Sira.
Yeah. And then it was never mentioned again, ever.
I feel like I missed that part where she was like, you look just like this.
I also missed it.
It was like, hold on. You guys talk. I'll try and find it. Let me see if I can find it.
Rachel, go get your dragon tattoo. You'd look so hot with it.
Yeah, oh my god. I got some gold down the river. Here's a comment. I keep waiting.
I found it. Oh, sorry.
Related. It is.
Yeah, I mean, it could be related. Here we go. Christine, take it away.
Oh, sorry. I was like just reading. It's on page 381. It's when she first meets the Sorkinsira, and she says how curious. She looks like Henelei. Hanelei, Hanelei. And then my note here is Rin's mother. Who is Henelei? Oh, and then she says, where did they hide you? Who found you? Who protected you? So.
Oh yes, yeah, I remember that.
I realize I should be more curious about her past than I am. Like, I don't really.
Like, I pick up on these things and I'm like, what is it? What does this mean?
It's interesting, but I'm just like, I don't care who her parents are at this point. Like, she's her own parent.
It honestly led me to believe that like one of her parents may be alive. I was like, oh boy, what if they're hiding out somewhere?
They're just alive for them to die in book 3. And, like, we'll know them.
Listen, I will cry so much. Like, a series of unfortunate events. You don't act like they didn't put that in front of me like 100 times, where they were like, your parent is still alive. I'm like,
oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm seeing something. I don't know. I'm not gonna forget that either. I'm gonna need some wrap-ups in the third book. I need to know what happened with the Empress, and I need to know who Henelei is. Okay.
Yes.
And I need Nezha to kiss Ren, not while he's trying to bring her.
Not while while she's drowning.
Because
that was our first kiss.
I know.
Rude.
But mother-wise, there was the thing in book 1 where every time she tried to access the Phoenix, there was a woman who was like, stop, don't do this. And she was like, I need to make this woman stop telling me what to do. Mom, stop nagging me. And so that she had to get Chagan to come and like destroy the woman, basically. But every time that she saw the woman, it was always like, oh, it's a motherly figure. It looks a lot like Alton. By the way, I also look a lot like Alton. Anyway, this woman is telling me what to do and has a lot of knowledge about this thing that I have a secret connection to.
I thought the woman was the tribe, or like the
Tirza,
the queen.
Yeah, I thought that's who she was.
Yeah, I thought that was her too at first. Right. But now I'm not sure if it's Tirza or if it's Henelei. I don't know. Like Rin's mom could have been like the tribal leader at the time, I guess, but I thought Tirza was. So now I'm just kind of like, what's going on with the Spearleys? What's going on?
Tirza die before the genocide, though?
I thought Tirza kind of like
her death led to them being exploited because they had easier access to them. Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but
wait, I think you're right.
No,
her death happened way before the genocide. I think
so. Yeah,
correct. Yeah, because that was like the Red Emperor. The Red Emperor and her had like
Red Emperor, yeah.
Right, and then and the trifecta came later. Yeah. Also interesting that the dragon, whatever. In the trifecta, he's not dead. I was like, whoa. Nezha's great granddaddy? He's alive?
Yeah, because they said like, okay, the prophecy thing was like, one of you will die, one of you will rule, and one of you will sleep for eternity. So it was like, well, obviously it looks like Zhang is sleeping for eternity and Daji is ruling.
Yeah.
But
they're not wrong though. Like they can't break the bonds. You know what I mean? If one of them dies, they'd all die. So I fully believe this man is alive. We just gotta find him.
Yeah. So
plot twist if it's Rin's daddy. Okay. Anyway, that's all I'm gonna say. It won't be.
No.
But it could be. It could be. Anything can happen.
Okay. Wait. But that could be like how they get, like they take him down, kind of. But then Zhang would also die.
Yeah, but he's resigned to kill himself. You know what I mean? Like he would rather be dead than let anybody open the Pantheon or whatever. Pantheon,
yeah, because he seals himself back up at the end of book 1,
which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah,
he said, "But I hated you anyway. You're a disappointment."
Yep.
How dare you?
That's his selfie. He's just like, oh, I miss him.
There were so many comments I have not gone through yet. I apologize. we found out that Chagan was the one that betrayed Rin and Alton's location. Is this true? I don't remember.
He told the Empress. He sent like a letter, I think, or something, and was like, "This is where they're going," because he thought it was a stupid idea. Remember?
I thought that was something like Alton was like, if I don't come back in 10 days, then you like he and Kara already were going north to do something with the valley.
Yeah.
Because then remember there was something later on where she was like, "Ha, you're also murderers.
Yeah.
How does it feel to
Yeah,
be a
the
murderer?
damn.
Don't tell anybody." But like, ha 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 ha. So that way she had like some sort of like relief of conscience that she wasn't the only person who had done this horrible crime.
Yes.
But I thought he also had said something like, "Yeah, well, that's literally what Alton told us to do, to like go north, do this thing, and then."
Yeah, I think it's the same
Thanks.
thing. Like, I think Alton said that, but I think also he, like, in doing that, he told the Empress. And then the Empress obviously told the Muganese, and y'all know how that story goes.
Okay. So written in the book said it wasn't Kite.
Oh, it
'Cause I
wasn't.
think-
Okay.
Because I think that was our theory last book.
Yes.
Yeah, it
'Cause
wasn't
Kite
him.
was like, "Does it matter who said what?" And
Yeah,
that's why I was
Kite-
like, long game deception.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
now I'm really flip-flopping on that
Always
theory.
the voice of reason.
I think Kite now understands Rin a lot better. This is from so long ago. I'm so sorry. He might not agree with her actions, but he understands her reasoning.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
It might cross a line in the third book that is unacceptable to Kite, and then he kills her, even at the cost of his own life. Maybe. I can totally see Kite sacrificing himself by killing Rin without unbonding to her.
Yes.
That's very true.
Yes.
Is Jayla trapped in a bathroom?
She is.
Are you
Yes.
trapped in a bathroom?
I mean,
She's trapped herself.
there are people sleeping out there, so technically, yes.
okay.
I'm in a hotel room. I don't know if I specified that. Please help.
Save me.
Thank you.
I love how I'm listening to all this knowing full well I have yet to even read the Poppy War.
It's okay. It's a lot
It's
to
really
unpack.
good.
Like, even the stuff you think you know. I'm still gonna go back and reread and learn new things.
Yeah, it's a very good reread. I mean, especially like physically with the annotating and everything. Really
Girl,
different
yes.
experience. So, yeah, it's a whole big thing.
Loving it.
Sorry, what were we talking about before this?
We were talking about a lot of things.
Because we were talking about the parent.
We talked about, Ren's daddy, allegedly. Or something.
Ren's daddy. Yeah, who knows?
Also, like,
Ran away.
coming back to like the Sorkit Sierra, where they were like, okay, so the trifecta came and then like murdered my daughter, and now I'm just supposed to like trust you, even though that's basically like the same whole thing with the shamans in the psych now. How am I supposed to trust you with this whole situation? And then kind of in the end, where she gets taken down by her nephew, I think.
No, it's her son.
It's fully her son?
Yeah.
Oh, I
Isn't
think you're
it?
right. Yeah, I think you're
Yeah,
right.
because it's Chagan and Kara's auntie, and their cousin is Vector, excuse me.
Wait.
Vector. So it's his mom, because his
What's
sister is the one who died, and that's why he's mad, because the mom didn't do anything. So that's why he killed her.
Wait. We're talking about with the arquebuses and what's his face?
Yes. So yeah. So
Sarah.
technically, he didn't like kill her.
I know
but
we
he
keep
gave-
saying that though, and I'm like,
Yeah, he gave the guns to the Hesperians who
yeah.
killed the Sorkin Sierra.
Yeah.
So when they talk about it later, they have a point. Like they can say, yeah, it wasn't us. It was definitely the Hesperians.
Right.
But yeah, they are the ones who did that coup.
it was all part of his master plan.
Yeah,
Although I
he's
really
gonna
thought
try
that
and
never
make some boss moves later on. I think the other part of the book that we haven't really talked about that happened earlier on was the pirates, Moag.
Oh yeah.
I just wanted to briefly mention, because I did like the part where like you were introduced to I think they're the lilies.
The lilies.
Mhm.
Yeah, I liked that part because they're hard asses, and they're like, oh, you'll see Moag when like we tell you to. And then Rin goes up and she's like fully withdrawing from opium, and she's like, if you don't mother effing let me through this door, I will crack your head open like a yolk, and you'll never see the light of day again. I was like, yes,
Love it.
I love to see it. Also, her whole like back and forth with Moag, where Moag's making fun of her because Rin is acting like a spoiled child, and she's like, "I thought you would help me," and Moag's like, "I thought you would help me." I was like, "Oh my god, I'm living for this woman."
I will say, I think part of the reason that the book dragged a bit for me was because Rin is so much more interesting when she's got her powers, and then for so much the book, she is not with them, and she's just like, I have to be my own person and like actually like fight really hard and earn back my strength and all this stuff. And like that was interesting, but I was just like, I feel like she's a lot like just more. Obviously, she's more confident because she can literally snap her fingers and kill someone when she has her power, but.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's just like the mood shift of literally being helpless except for what you can do with your bare hands was very
Right.
interesting.
I mean, I feel like she had to deal with that because having had the Phoenix sealed meant that she wasn't able to just be this like monarch on top of everything, and it's why she was reserved to being like, yeah, make me a soldier again because I can't control the psyche anyway, and I also can't do the Phoenix thing anymore, so what's the point of anything? And, like having to come back from that and then being able to access her power, I think is more interesting than just being like have power all the time. But also I do kind of agree because the most of the book in the first like third, basically up until the point where Vicer's like, no opium for you, I was kind of like, okay, I'm waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, it was just slogging.
They were just not quite happening. Yeah,
but yeah.
I'm trying to find
I like the pirate. I like the pirate part, and I like that she was like feeling seasick in that whole city because the city is just a bunch of like platforms tied together. Like I thought that was really cool. And then I thought it was cool that the Dragon Republic is kind of the same layout, you know. But yeah, that's all I had to say about that.
So very sad. Arachka? What's his name?
Oh my god, when he died, the water god, right?
Oh my god, that was so horrible.
Yeah, this book, okay, let's talk about deaths, y'all. We're at that part.
Let's talk about the misdirect that happened here.
He got poisoned in such a bitch ass way. Like they literally, like, damn, they took him out so quick. And the way that he came up on the scene, like the description of him, I was like, Davy Jones is literally here. No, not Davy Jones. Will's dad. Who is that in Pirates of the Caribbean? That guy.
Yeah.
Is literally this guy. You know what I mean? He's got like the shells on his face,
all over.
Yeah, I was like picturing him like that. And that whole part, it was just so messed.
I had a theory for like a little while that Mingxia actually was Aratsuka because we never saw his actual face for a really long time. Where I was like, oh, did he get turned into a? And then he died, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, that wasn't him.
Probably not relevant. So no, I don't think so.
That wasn't him. Yeah, that would have been really cool, actually. Bootstrap Bill. Bill and Will. That's right.
Way to go, y'all. I could not dredge that up in my memory to save my life.
That is who I was thinking of. I was like, oh, damn, Bootstrap Bill made an appearance in Dragon Republic.
Papa Skarsgård, my favorite
Skarsgård. I didn't know he was a Skarsgård. Wow.
Yes, he is. And let me tell you, he is atrocious in Dune. I hated seeing him.
I still haven't seen that movie.
Me neither.
All that work I did to read the book, but that's not the book we're talking about today.
Gosh, that's crazy. That's crazy. You crazy girl. Crazy girl. Anyway.
But Aratsuka died, and I mean, like, when everyone was like, oh my god, do you think they poisoned the water to get to Aratsuka? And Rin's like,
no.
I'm like, yeah, I agree. I don't think so. But
no, they didn't even know
he was in there.
Yeah, and the whole point of that conversation too is that she said I was more disappointed that he had died and I couldn't use him as a weapon.
Yeah.
Than I was in the fact that like I had spent time with him and he was one of my like comrades or whatever.
Yeah.
And this is the part where I was telling Jayla, she's so freaking selfish and she's so annoying sometimes the way that she thinks. Like I get it. You didn't spend any quality time with this man. Obviously, he was in the water. He was in a barrel a lot of the times. But like still, he was part of the psych. You're in charge of the psych. Like, can't you have like a minute where you're just like, let's have a minute of silence for this man who actually steered the boat. He did a lot of work in the last Poppy War, if y'all remember. And 3 didn't deserve to go out like that by some damn pig intestines in the water.
Very interesting idea, though.
And then, if that wasn't bad enough, the rest of the psych basically dies.
Literally, almost every single person.
Like, because I was like, okay, Aratsuka died. I'm kind of like thrown for a loop. I really didn't see that coming, and I'm kind of upset of like, okay, actually at the very beginning where she like burns what's his face.
I don't remember their names, but at least they left. They got out of there.
It was like that one guy who was he was like the fox spirit.
Oh, yes.
She like burns him by accident, and she burns him really bad, and he doesn't die, but he almost does.
Yeah,
I forgot that happened.
Because she's just so like unable to control what's going on with the fire that can't be, soothed. So she almost burns him, and then he and the mushroom guy leave. The one who provided, the guy who provided all of the shrooms.
He's basically like their physician, the psych physician.
Their dealer, basically.
But
they left together, and then Aradska died. And then near the end, I was like, no. But I mean, Chagan already is like, I'm off to like get justice on this whole thing, so he's just currently out of the picture, but not dead. And then other people die.
I hated how they did the Kara death though, only because it's like a few pages before where Rin and Kara have the conversation. Like, do you ever feel like your brother dominates you or whatever? I feel like that was like one moment of giving Kara actual depth and giving us a moment to see her as a character, only to just take her away in like the next 10 pages. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Because I was like, did we just have this conversation just so we would feel worse when she died? Because she's always so quiet, and all of a sudden she was like, wait a minute.
I need to make this have feelings.
I mean, I think the point of that whole thing is that, because like if we hadn't had that conversation and she had died that way, we would have been like, well, she was always the weaker one, so obviously she had to sacrifice herself. But I think the point of that whole thing is that it was her decision to protect her brother. They're always on the same page, and like
maybe
that's what she wanted to do. I mean, that's how I'm choosing to see it.
No, that's a good way of reading it. I just read it as kind of what Rachel just said. Let me make you care about her a little bit more.
I mean, I've always thought she was cool. I mean, she has the birds going on. She got the arrow thing.
Yeah,
now
I like her.
Got the arrow
I thought she was cool in like the first Poppy War. Like I was just like, she's great. Like cool. Like I don't feel like better or worse about her than most of the other people in the psych. Like I generally like everyone relatively equally, with a little bit more favoritism towards like a couple people here and there. I was like, cool. And then at the point where it was like, oh, aren't you just like totally quiet and Chagan just like dominates your personality and stuff? I was like, oh, I never really thought of it. Yeah, I guess it's kind of true. And then she was like, no. And I was like, oh, okay. And she just died. And I was like, okay, all right.
I think she did that on purpose, honestly, because she kind of kept the psych, all of them, at an arm's distance in this book. And I think she really did us a favor, because if she had them, I'm just saying, like, she did pop them in every now and then, but like a lot of the plot was more about her, Kate, and Neja. And I think if she had brought them closer for us, we would have felt that loss like way harder. Like I would have been
with a death like Ram says. I don't know. Obviously, she looked at him kind of like a little brother, like she loved Kasegi. I don't know if you can say that is love, but like you would think that she would have spent a little more time with at least Ramsa, but even him is like he's pretty off in the distance in this book too.
Yeah,
so that surprised me. Like of anyone else in the psych, it would be him that I thought I would at least cry. But I was upset, but I wasn't like shaking.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. As soon as they went up on that thing and they were blindfolded, and Suni and Baji, as soon as they were up there, I was like, all right, so they're all gonna die. Like there's not gonna be anyone.
I was waiting to see if there was some sort of
I was waiting for like Pirates of the Caribbean, like last second where he's like holding onto the thing and he has his like feet on the whatever, and I was like, they'll be fine, and then they died, and I was like, okay, but at least it's not Ramsa. And then he died like 3 pages later, and I was like, great.
No, she's killing them off, because there can only be 3 that move on to the next round.
Horrible.
Oh, it was so sad.
Yeah.
Lots of character death in this one. Who's next? Vinka's gonna die, I'm sure. No, actually, Vinka's not gonna die, because she's already gone through so much that I think that RF Kuang wouldn't do that. I just feel like she would want her to get to the end. So at least that's my
know. Yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen.
Oh, but what do you guys think about the scene where like they basically captured Rin, and she was like, oh my god, they have Kate, what if they're torturing him? And then all of a sudden she's like, I can't communicate with him. And then she sees like, where are you? And she's like, palace 1-3, like okay, like that's kind of like body horror, but smart. This is the way to communicate.
Literally
loved
nothing
it.
she hasn't done before,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah, where she's like,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
this.
yes, the part where she's looking at her body in the mirror.
Yeah.
And she's talking about all of her scars and how ugly she is and like how she's like, I'm disgusted with myself. I kind of loved that part. I know it's like weird to say, but I love that she had to like face everything that she's done to get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and she's kind of realizing that there's nothing she won't do to survive.
I just realized I gave a double standard to. I'm like, Vinka's been through so much; she's going to survive to the end. Rin has also been through a lot, not in the same way, obviously, but definitely been through a lot of trauma. And yeah, nope, she's going to die. It's just very interesting.
I mean, yeah, she had the whole conversation with her auntie where the aunt was like, all you had to do was spread your legs and you would have been set for life, you know, XYZ.
Yeah, she's like, I did everything for you. I set it all up so you would have had a good life. I'm not a bad person. I was like, well, it's debatable, but
I mean, Auntie Fang, she was doing what she could, but I mean, even her own son said she was horrible. She was never nice, you know?
Yeah.
Well, that was also interesting because he was like, you thought she was bad, but you didn't have to live with her for most of your life. Like, you got to leave. Like, yes, you stayed here until you were like 16, but like then you got to leave.
Yeah, you basically went to Senegard because you're amazing, and I'm Kasegi.
And I had to really like the one person because like it wasn't like me and a sibling; it was just me.
Yeah,
and then like she would just be terrible to me all the time. But I thought the introduction of like Kasegi back in this book is also kind of interesting because then he is like, "Hey, come with me to this thing." Because there's an emergency, and then when she gets there, then he's like, "Okay, I brought her. Sorry to lie to you, but it was the only way to get you to show up here." So
I knew she was getting captured or something. I just didn't know what was happening with him. Yeah. But yeah, that whole part is kind of heartbreaking. The Kasegi part when they reunite and I said this before I even read this part, but I was like, he's going to definitely be like, why didn't you write me? It's going to be like a notebook situation and be like, I wrote you letters.
I wrote you every day.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's so heartbreaking that when she's faced with that, she doesn't really have an answer. She's just kind of like, I didn't think about you, you know? Yeah. Like you're associated with all the things that I hate. Like, you know, Auntie Fang getting married and having to like, you know, do that whole thing, being in the South, being poor, you know, all this stuff. And so because I associated that with you, I just wrote you off when I, you know, succeeded and like went forward with my life. And like, granted, obviously she wasn't in like the best of situations, but it's definitely was like better than it was, you know, staying there. Mm-hmm. So that whole part was really just crazy. I was like, damn, Kasegi.
Every time.
I know, really crazy. Yeah. It's just sad because he's like, you're my sister. He literally says, you're my sister. And she will never, ever not say, yes, my foster brother, Kasegi. Like, that's always how he said it.
She had that moment in the first book where she was talking to Kate, I think, and he was like, do you have any siblings? And she was like, no. And then a second later, she's like, I don't know why I said that. Yes, I have a foster brother, Kasegi. Here's his whole story.
Yeah.
But she didn't really automatically think of him. And then he was like, oh, do you like write home? And she's like, I literally try not to think about them at all. I just don't. I don't know why. I just don't. So like she had the opportunity to think back on it and be like, maybe I should write to him. But then was still like, I'm not going to do that. And to be fair, I mean, like, there's plenty of things I have not written because I'm busy. But I don't like disown part of my family for that whole thing. So
yeah, it's rough. It'll be interesting to see what Kasegi does in the next book.
So he is confirmed still alive.
I mean, I would assume if the character death is not on page, they're alive. That's been my whole thing this whole series.
Yeah,
I truly would not have thought about him if he did not come back into book 2, though. So,
well, there was a theory about him in book 1 when people said the thing that eats people's faces. So like, how would it know his face unless it saw it? So there was a part where she was like, has the South been invaded? Did people go into Rooster Province? Was everyone killed? And was it done by the Muganese or was it done by these weird like shaman-ish god creatures that are just roaming the earth now? So there was this theory, I think someone in the chat had said like, did it eat Kasegi?
Right.
And how it knew its face, but then we kind of have him coming back. So it's more of just like playing into the psyche of the person that it sees and just being like, who do you want to see?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually really interesting that you bring that up, because as far as like that monster and then the dragon that Neja has to face, and then the shamans, those are really the only kind of like fantasy monster aspects of this book. I would really love to see more of that in the next one, because obviously the setting of this one was like very contained, but like I would love to see more of that.
Yeah, because also in the end of the last book, Phelan escapes from the mountain.
Right.
And then he shows up again near the end of this book, where I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about you.
Hello.
And they have to kind of like fight him and like talk him out of this thing and then bury him in rocks. So I wonder if he will come back, or if like all of the spirits will be released. Because I feel like it's sort of like one of those things where like you don't just set up like a mountain full of a million different gods and leave it there. Like someone is going to go in and release them, whether
very tempting,
just to wreak havoc. And I wonder if it's one of those like, if I can't have the world, then nobody can. I'm going to go release chaos.
That might be the Empress God's whole MO. That might be what they were talking about when she was like, you serve a bigger purpose.
Especially
like,
if the Hesperians are like, we are anti-chaos, like no chaos.
Yeah, like she really is at that point
where
she will let them go.
Yeah.
You know, and she's proven that. That makes so much sense. She's proven that because she literally has said, I will cut off the arm to save the body.
Yeah.
And so she, like, that's her mindset. You know what I mean?
But it's not, because gods are, I mean, maybe in this case, I don't know, Phelan was working for the Empress, so somehow, the Empress's god knows how to control the others.
Sway over everybody. Like, I'm still not clear on, like, how she has sway over everybody. If it's like, some way that you, like, take somebody out.
Well, her power is persuasion in a way, so
yeah, she has to be in front of them, and then she like can control them, but also she has the like poison, which can be a block to people's powers.
True, yeah, that too.
Well,
no, I don't mean controlling the shamans specifically, though. I just meant like if this theory that we're talking about, where we release all the gods, happens, they're not going to discriminate. They're going to kill whoever they want to. Right. Unless she can control them and tell them only kill the Hesperians, which I don't know how she would be able to do that. That was my point.
I think if she does that, that'll be like a last ditch effort, and it will be in the mindset of, okay, no one's going to survive, so rather than give the land to the Hesperians, we're just going to kill everybody.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's what I would think for her character.
Yeah, I mean, like, the fact she had some control over Phelan, though, makes me think that she might be doing this like in a way that she's getting in over her head, where she's kind of like, okay, let me try using shamans to stop this whole situation and release people from the mountain, and then it might get a little out of hand and then just become a whole like, let me just, you know, in that event of like, we're all gonna die, let everybody out, and then like return the world to the way it supposedly used to be. And this might play back in with the Ketriids, because they were like, this is how it used to be, that like gods roamed the earth and they wreaked destruction everywhere, and there was chaos, and eventually they stopped doing that, but we didn't call them down to fight for us like idiots. We just asked them the future. Like, we don't do stuff like that. So the fact that they're kind of like sealed in that way means that there's just fewer and fewer gods to really call to, it seems. And so I wonder if this will just be kind of like a very, very slow return to the way things used to be, and like a full circle moment of like, it used to be this way, here we are again.
Right.
So
it will definitely be interesting to see how this ends. I don't know what.
In fire and lots of blood.
Wind, fire, air, water, like the Avatar. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah. Also, we were just talking about the foreshadowing thing at the beginning of the show, and I just remembered this whole concept of the Dragon Republic was also hinted at in the first book, because when they were having the big procession back at Kate's house in his village, which was in like Sinigard, at his family home, they had this big procession where all the families come. And at one point, Rin is watching from the sidelines, and she sees Neja's family, or like she sees like Neja and his siblings, but she's like, "Oh, I can't believe that his dad isn't here if he's like the dragon warlord. So like, why would he not be here?" And Kate was like, "Oh, like some people have been like talking and saying that he's like resisting the control of the empire, and that maybe he's gonna like form a rebellion, but like it's just a rumor. Who knows?" And it was like, just think about that. Probably won't come up in another
You really
book.
got to start.
Don't worry about it. It's like,
Yeah, she be telling us. She be telling us what's gonna happen.
yeah, I
But it
underlined
seems
that
so
real quick.
obvious. Like it seems so obvious as you say it, but at the time it's like, okay, well, obviously it's not going to be that because why would she just come out and say it, you know?
Yeah, but that's what I'm finding, at least in this series. I don't know how Babel is gonna be, but
I've heard Babel is really different. I've heard it's really, really, really different from the Poppy War.
I'm sure
So,
they don't seem like they would be similar at all in any way. So
well, only time will tell. We'll see.
I mean, it's like I think that knowing like the history and everything makes the books interesting in a way, but in other ways, I'm kind of glad, like, as bad as it is that I don't really know like a lot of the general history, I kind of prefer it that way, and then learning about it after I finish the book to then see the parallels, because sometimes I feel like it spoils, like I know what's going to happen next.
That makes sense.
And, like when I was reading the article that Tiffany wrote from Read by Tiffany, she wrote this article talking about like the ways that the Poppy War reflects actual history, and some of it is like deeply fascinating. Like when you think about how the Muganese is really supposed to basically be a parallel for Japan, and that Nikara is supposed to be China, then you're like, oh, that literally makes sense. Like the bow-shaped continent, like or country, literally looks just like Japan, and then Spear looks a lot like Taiwan. And oh, hey, this sounds really familiar with the events that took place. Okay, I get it. And like it's kind of like a moment when it happens, but I feel like as far as like this book in particular, if you read that part of the article, it kind of spoils like everything that happens and talks about parallels between like Kite is supposed to be this person from history, and Rin is supposed to be that person from history, and then Neja is kind of and his father are like these people from history. So that I'm like, it's cool, I know that now, but I just don't want to read anything else until I finish The Burning God, because I feel like it will just be like, by the way, this person killed that person in history, and I'll be like, no, don't tell me.
Yes, yeah. I'm like purposefully not reading any of that until afterwards, but I do want to go back and read everything so that I have more of a better understanding, and that way when I do the reread, I'll be like finding even more things.
Yeah, I think it's so like almost like unusual to go back and find anything in history that could spoil like a fantasy book for me. Like it's such an unusual experience that even exists in general. But I'm really trying not to like read more of that article as much as I am tempted, because sometimes there are also like references to like people in the psych and how they actually reflect like real mythological characters that were, well, not real, but like characters from Chinese mythology, and that they have basically like the same, almost like exactly the same names and exactly the same fates. So like Phelan being like a wind god also was like buried in rocks by a mountain, and that was like the fate of this god. And I think Baji and what's his face?
Suni?
Suni. They have like really, really similar names also in the mythology, and they have like the same sort of like powers of like fighting with this like boar like strength, and then also having this like sort of like monkey energy um for Suni. So it's kind of like, oh, like these come from somewhere. Like this is pretty interesting to pull all this stuff. And from my understanding, these are kind of the more like unusual mythological texts, not just like the textbook, you know, here's just the broad overview, but more of like just picking and choosing from the more unusual stories and pulling them into this fantasy world to be these gods and shamans, and whatnot. So I feel like R.F. Kuang did so much research to pull this together and did so much to create those parallels that it's one of those things that's like really, really hard to ignore when you do talk about this series, that it has like a real life parallel. And it's just, it's so extremely rare, and it's so awesome to also have at the same time. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, Brooke said kind of the same thing. I knew it was going to happen because of the history. Don't know enough of the history to put other pieces together from some of the other books. Yeah. I think book 1 was definitely the one I knew the most about, and I don't know anything about Burning God and what it's going to reflect at this point yet, but
My question is, how much of this, so like, me and Christine, when we were reading it, ended up Googling the events or like what it was trying to be based off of. I didn't realize this was supposed to be taking place in the aughts. I thought this was like a dynasty of China or something like that. And so I'm like, how close is this to the Mao Revolution with like the ideology change, or is it going into that? Because didn't that happen in the 60s? Do you know what revolution I'm talking about?
Like the 1940-ish, 50-ish.
It started in 1940s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like remember when like they were like executing professors and stuff who were accused of being communist? I think is what happened in that case.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same thing happening in this.
I mean, I don't think it's there yet because the communists would be like Mao's regime, which would be Rin, and she's not there yet. So that might be like after effects after the Burning God or happening during the Burning God. But
yeah,
it would be
I
like
don't think
power.
I meant more so how close in real life, like how many years between this and this had that been? Because I didn't really know about this civil war that was happening until it becomes the like whole communist versus nationalist thing. So
yeah. I mean, I know very little about it. I'm a very bad Chinese person. I just don't know a lot about my own history.
You're not expected to. You seem to know a bit. That's why I was asking you. But I can go read a book.
I read the article read by Tiffany. I'm a really bad like history person. I know what I do about Nanking from reading the book, The Rape of Nanking, which was recommended for a different Poppy War read along like 2 years ago or something. So there was like a whole thing of like, hey, if you want to know all the historical context, read this one. So I've been kind of like looking for something that's similar for the Civil War to reflect like events in the Dragon Republic, and then something similar for like the Burning God to just have all of the facts, but I don't 100% know. I think Tiffany gives like the timeline a little bit and then talks about how like the person in charge of the nationalist movement is supposed to be oh my god, the Viceroy. Oh my god. And how they're supposed to be like very similar, and that he has a son, and that's supposed to be like Neja. It's more like character and general like actions based, but I'm not so sure about the actual timing of things.
Okay. I will go read the article probably after I finish book 3, like you just said. But yes, Liz, I was connecting it to the 3-body problem because that's where I learned about that whole revolution. So it's crazy how these books are just teaching me so much. But yeah,
the 3-body problem, the sci-fi book. Okay, that has something to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah, it starts in the 1960s in China, and it's talking about the revolution that I know nothing about, but that I learned about from that book. So
wow,
it's based in historical context. That's super interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Even Loki, the buddy read that we had, Nicolee, with the Library of Legends, I feel like that also was like happening around this time period.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of interesting how it's all connected.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things that's very hard to disconnect from your writing, especially if you're coming from the background of being like the Own Voices books in like historical, not even historical, because it's like what 60 years ago ish. So I mean, like talking about that time period, it's very hard to like separate anything from the actual events and like the revolutions, if you want to call it that were happening at the same time. So I mean, it's an interesting time to talk about for sure, but I feel like it is sort of probably hard to separate that and then just go into a direction of like this never happened. So in terms of like 3-body problem where like professors are getting executed, like that story comes up with its own like reasoning why, but it's kind of like cool how they pull in something and they're like, what if it was because of this instead of
Right.
it was. So, but yeah,
Can you imagine?
it's definitely like a time that I'm sure a lot of people find it hard, like divorcing from what they want to write about because it was just so
Impactful.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the last thing that I want to talk about really, and this is a very selfish thing that I want to talk about, and that's just like when Rin sees Neja for the first
I knew
time.
it. I knew it.
And I'm not going to harp on it. I just want to say that whole part when she's like, you're supposed to be dead, like I saw you die.
Yeah.
And then he's like, hey, honey, I'm home. Y'all, I can't tell you how happy I was. And then he's like, my face is ugly, huh? And then he's like, hee hee hee. And she's like, no, you're still cute. Okay. And that's all I wanted to say. I really like that part.
I had a moment.
I'll say that's one of my favorite parts of the book. There you go. Round it out.
Yeah.
What were your favorite parts?
No, that was definitely a huge plus for me. Oh, and she's gone. All right. Was it nothing? Was the answer nothing?
No. I'm sure she liked to part with Kate.
Yeah.
Something.
But yes, I mean, I remember when that happened because I was like, man, we're not going to see Neja in this book. He has to come back at some point. He can't actually be dead from the gas thing. But that was so devastating where she was like, I have to go back for him, and I should have gone back, and he would have let me.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to, and I have to be there. And she just like experienced this horrible loss without him, and then was just coping. And then all of a sudden it was like, who's that? And I mean, especially the way it was written, where it's just like a person talking.
Yeah, but like, she says, she's like, I recognize that gate. Like, I recognize that voice. And she's like, I'm having one of those moments where she's like tied up and she's like, oh my God, this man that I hate, but I kind of like, he's here.
It's the fact that she knew him just by the way he walked. Like, and she was like, oh, that's him.
Yes. And I don't know. There's just something about the way that is like put in front of us, because obviously, you know, she would recognize Kate walking down, like saying his thing, whatever. But RF gives us this moment with her and Neja. And I don't know why I'm just like really feeding off of it, but I loved it. I loved it. Every time they were together, and Neja's just like the little golden retriever puppy towards her. He's like, I love you.
Until I
I'll
stab
never
you.
lie to you. Even though he does lie to her and she does lie to him. But
yeah, that was really painful. She was like, towards the end when she's about to run away, she's just like, it's nice to finally not have to lie to him about this one thing that was like such a simple answer to something. I can't remember what the question was, but
well, also like, at the end he was like, we can trust each other, right? Like I mean, because
he's a fucking liar too.
Yeah, they're both lying to each other. That's why they're perfect for each other. I'm gonna die on that hill.
Well, because I think
like a totally non-toxic relationship. Yep.
Because they both were about to do something to break each other's heart. So the fact that they both kind of approach it from a way of like, hey, like no matter what, you know, like I care about you and I would never lie to you.
I would stab you, but I wouldn't hurt you. You know what I mean?
Like you get what I'm saying, right? And I wonder if that's their communication of like, hey, idiot, I'm not stabbing you to murder you. I'm stabbing you to save you. Like, come on.
Yes.
Totally.
Remember when I said what I said, and then I like, come on, read between the lines, my friend.
That's true. Why I believe what I believe, but we'll see.
I'm still trying to think of a favorite part, so anyone else can go ahead.
I don't know. This book hurt a lot.
It did.
Yeah.
That's why I had to pick a good moment, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe it was just Kate saying fuck this and then shooting.
That part was so good. I was hooting and hollering.
Yeah. Like it shouldn't have made me laugh, but I needed a little bit of laughter in this book. So
but you know, I mean that, or maybe like when he is trying to figure out her powers and they're on the raft And she's like, I don't want to do this right now. And he's like, okay, well, tough luck because we're joined at the hip now. So we're going to figure this out. Also, we might die here if we starve. So like, why don't we just figure out how much you can do? Okay.
Indeed.
Yeah, that was a good part too.
I feel like one of my favorite parts is when she finally got over Alton and just stopped saying his name every 5 pages because thank God.
Yeah.
How can we forget? Wow, wait a minute. That was such a good part. She burns down the trident. And the guy's like, Are you sure you really want to burn this down? Because this is like
one of a kind. They killed
weapon
everybody who makes this.
Yes.
And
He's
if I
like,
put
I don't think I can replicate this.
Tried it. She was like, yeah, I don't care. I just want a sword.
Yes. And she said, Nezha's right. I've always been better with a sword. And I'm like, yes, because Nezha is your man. Anyway. Let me not forget. But that was such a good part. And she melted down and she literally said, you know, F this, F Alton. He wasn't a hero. He was just a normal human being who could have fire. But, you know.
Who could have fire.
That part also, I was like, yes, girl, yes, Rin, yes. Anyway, that got me hyped.
Also, I really liked the letter from Solin, which is on page 502, when he says, like, you must recognize a ruler's first obligation is to his people. I chose the path that would lead to the least bloodshed. Perhaps this has stifled a democratic transition. I know the vision you dreamed of for this nation, and I know I may have destroyed it, but my first obligation is not to the unborn people of this country's future, but the people who are suffering now, who pass their days in fear because of the war you have brought to their doorstep. I defect for them. This is how I will protect them. I weep for you, my student. I weep for your republic. I weep for my wife and children. You will die thinking I have abandoned you all, but I do not hesitate to say that I value the lives of my people far more than I have ever valued you.
Yeah, those are some bars.
I know.
You didn't have to go so hard with your little letter.
He's the real MVP.
That was really good.
That was so good because he literally is saying, I know my wife and kids are going to be murdered for this, but I don't care because, not that I don't care, but like, but I have to do this for the people.
He's like, I care more about this, like doing what's right for the people.
And he's got a point. He's got a point, you know, like doing for the people that are here now, you know, because like, you don't even know what the future is going to hold. You don't even know if they're going to be future people.
Right. You need to have people now so that there can be a future.
Right.
Yeah.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. I like that part too. I'm about to tab that. Right.
I also kind of, I wouldn't say it's like my favorite moment, but I also liked the moment where Rin was talking to, is his name August?
Oh yeah, Augustus or whatever.
August. Yeah.
And then like he's talking to her and he's like, no, it's like because you're so like uneducated and we're just here to like help you or whatever.
We didn't talk about the Hesperians enough, but like we're probably wrapping up now. But
oh no, it's fine. I'm just like the moment where she finally was like, oh, so like you're a bitch ass too, like
right,
got it, cool. I kind of thought
he thinks he's being kind. He thinks he's being kind right now, but actually.
And then she's like, yeah, I'm done talking to you now. Bye.
Yeah, but she ends up defending him later on.
Like, kind of, but then he also... Doesn't he die?
Yeah.
And that's the reason that they're like, oh god, now the Hesperians are going to come after this whole thing because we let one person die from their team.
But it's the fact that it ended up being... That never actually became the issue, right? It was just that one guard.
Bector?
No, the guard that she threw in the harbor. That was
that's the guy. That's the guy. When she goes back, Viceroy or whatever, he says, why didn't you bring the Hesperians with you? They're not necessarily like dead, I guess, because I think they let them go, right? But he was like, why didn't you bring them back? Because the fact that you didn't bring them back is going to piss the Hesperians off. And like, we want the Hesperians because we want their power and influence and blah, blah, blah. But I think you're right. Like the point of no return is when she kills that man for raping the girl.
Yeah.
And
But that also is kind of like her own like radar of who is at the point of no return, because the people who have no sympathy that are like, yeah, but you shouldn't have killed him. And it's like, you realize what he was doing. They're like, yeah, but you still shouldn't have done it. And she's like, all right, okay, fuck you. All right, how about you?
Yeah, yes, that's when she has her whole like come to God moment where she's like, wait a minute, these people aren't anything like what I thought they were.
Yeah.
And you know, that's just on Ren being malleable, you know? She just does what people tells her to.
Are you a New Yorker now?
I don't know.
Work. So the Hesperians.
Yeah,
Oh, they died.
They
Okay,
didn't end up coming. Yeah, I remember they had the conversation like we could just put them on a like boat or like let them point them in that direction, and if they don't make it, they don't make it. But I'm pretty sure after he killed the Sorkin, I don't know.
Sorkin Seer?
Yeah, Source.
The Sorkin Seer. I'm pretty sure they killed all of them after that.
Yes. I think you're correct.
I feel like it was kind of implied that they died. But like August definitely died.
Yes. He was definitely 100% shot. With an arrow or something.
I thought he got lit up. Like I thought it was like do with him.
Can we
talk
about when this book started? I did not know the arquebuses were guns. I thought they were the blimps.
Wait, what?
when this book started, like the first few chapters, that when the Hesperians arrived, I thought the arquebuses were the blimps.
Wait, that's what I thought.
No, they're guns.
No, they're guns. Yeah.
What?
I know. It would make more sense if they were the blimps.
I thought they were blimps.
No,
I thought they came from the
shooting blimps at people. No big deal.
If they were, because they're holding them. You can't really hold a blimp. So, yeah. Anyway.
Interesting.
Oh, they melt down the damn thing in the next page. 503. Anyway, sorry. Right after the letter.
Oh, yeah.
They melt down the trident. Anyway, Nicolee, what's your favorite part? Do you have a favorite part?
Honestly, when I think about this book, I just think of sadness.
Yeah.
Is it as bad as you thought it was going to be?
I think for the first book, no. The second book, it was more just sad. Like, I'm very much an empath, and so I did get attached to a lot of the psych, and it was hard to read about. And it was also hard to revisit, like, the Empress's trauma and stuff like that. So, but I did really enjoy the scene where Rin and Kate bonded. I talked about that before.
Yeah.
But I really liked the quote paragraph where she's like, she could.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's like the one wholesome moment. Like,
yeah. I put like a pink. That was like the only pink in the entire book, which meant I loved it. And it just says, you know, she saw the way that concepts were stored in his mind, great repositories of knowledge linked together. She saw the anxiety. She understood his sadness. She saw his fury. We're the same. And I don't know. It just felt very...
I really liked that moment too.
Yeah.
It was a healing moment for their relationship, that's for sure.
Definitely.
And that's good.
Because I really like him, so...
I know.
She also realized, like, now she can't be as reckless because she's linked to a person she loves with Kate. Because she would have just, like, thrown herself to do whatever, and now she's like, wait, anytime that he is like, I'm fine, I can tolerate it, it's okay, he's, like, burning up inside and it hurts so much worse, but he's not willing to say it. So she's realizing, like, anytime I do that, I'm thinking... But also, like, when she first calls the flame and she's like, but it feels so good. Oh my god, I finally have this power back. And then Kate's like, ow, okay, all right, no, uncle, stop. She's just like, but it feels great. And it's like, oh, wait. Okay, Kate, all right, let me stop.
Let me stab myself. Okay.
Yeah, like, make it stop. But interesting that he's like the one thing that can bring her back. But I think because she and Neja are still on the rickety terms as of right now, he is kind of like the only person that she feels close enough to do all of this. And I think, like, if he did die, he's like the one person in this cast at this exact time that she would, like, feel the most loss and sorrow for, and not be like, you know, this person is expendable, because he means so much to her. And that's why it's so important that they are bonded, because you can't just bond with anybody. Like, it really has to be a person who kind of is, like, your soulmate in a way. Like, you are literally, like, putting them together and you're just like, if the person dies, you're like, I would rather die and be with you than continue to live without you. So yeah, I mean, that's such a powerful concept that exists, and I can't wait to see how it gets explored more in book 3, especially with like the trifecta, if that really is something, because they were supposed to be like 3 best friends that grew up together and were so close, and whatever it is. So,
what if the
trifecta? What if the new trifecta is like Neja, Kite, and Venka, because they also grew up together, and it's 2 boys and a girl, and she's like a Vipress, and Neja's like the dragon warrior, and Kite is like the gatekeeper.
Could be.
That would make sense.
Could be.
So
I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what's gonna happen. I know Jun's gonna come back. Like, he's gonna muck some stuff up. I mean, who knows? Who knows what it could be? But I'm expecting greatness. So hopefully it doesn't let me down.
Any final predictions for the last book? Or what are our summaries of our predictions? I think it was like, in the next book, Rin is going to rise to power, potentially get killed by either Kite or Neja, or else have to like face them in some way, shape, or form. Probably reconcile with Neja.
I mean, here's hoping, but I don't have high hopes for that. Like, I really think, I don't know. I don't know if that's gonna be it, because like all we got in this book was a dang, she's dying, so I got to give her some life kiss. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have high hope.
I truly believe the emphasis on fire versus water will not allow them to be on the same team. I feel like they've just been drawing it out so much, and like it's going to come to this epic conclusion in which it is fire versus water. And I don't know. I do also have the theory that Viceroy will give up Neja because they find out he does have powers, and that'll be the thing that triggers Neja to be like, I made a mistake. But I can't tell if I believe that more than I believe the big conclusion. So, yeah.
Maybe it's not even a big conclusion. Maybe they have their confrontation early on. And that's when she's like, you idiot, your dad will sell you. Don't think you're any different than me.
Which is true, but then it'll feel so weird.
Huh?
That's true, but then it'll just feel so weird pacing-wise to me. But maybe she'll do it brilliantly. We know
I mean, maybe, but maybe not. There's so many people that they still have to like confront. Like, they still have to confront the Northerners. They still have to confront the Empress, Jun, like the Hesperians. They've got other people to fight. They don't need to be fighting each other.
So many moving pieces.
Yeah, so like honestly, it would make sense to me if they had some kind of like confrontation in the beginning, got it out of the way, then started working together.
But also, the big one needs to be her versus the Hesperians. So
yeah, they got to get them out of there, you know. So the South will.
And then, I mean, like by the last book, we'll probably also find out like actually there was another enemy all along. Like there's don't say that. Like it's just,
I'm glad you all said that. Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But I'm excited.
Me too. This is a good time to segue into your thing.
the next show. Yes. So, in conclusion, who knows? Anything could happen. R.F. Kuang's genius is just something we witness. We don't dare to predict it that brilliantly, the way that she can. But so we're going to be continuing on with the series and reading The Burning God. And we will be discussing it very shortly, hopefully near the end of this month. I think
she said the 28th. I think that's what she said. Yeah.
I saw that.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
So I think it's like in 2 or 3 Sundays from now. Or Saturdays, sorry.
Okay. I'm going to write that down in my calendar so I know to read it by then.
I think I saw it on Jess's. She does like a list of events for her channel, and I think she put it on there.
I just accidentally wrote The Burning Hog on my calendar.
No. The Burning
Hog. Okay. Anyway, we'll be discussing The Burning God on Jess's channel on the 28th, which is a Saturday. And we will, as always, announce this over on Instagram and in our Discord. And if you have not yet joined our Discord and you'd like to discuss the books with us, please do that. I think there is a link in the description now. And we also have everybody linked down below. So definitely go give everybody a follow. Jess also will definitely be there next time, and we should have the whole crew back together for that show. And then, of course, we're going to continue on with our next series. So very excited for that, and we hope that you'll join us. Thanks everybody for coming. Let me turn this banner off. Thanks everybody for coming. Kitay's Pillow, thanks for being our guest host.
I forgot that was my name still.
Why is that your name?
Isn't it self-explanatory? I'm Kate's pillow. I want him to hold me when he sleeps.
We were doing private sprints for Dragon Republic, and I think she was trying to be funny.
Oh, you mean the actual reason? Yeah, it was just how I was feeling at the time. Private sprints.
Yes.
Oh God. Okay. Well, thanks for coming anyway. But thanks everybody for joining us and for chatting with us, and we can't wait to hear what you think about book 3. So we will see you around on the internet. Bye everybody.
Bye.